Alright, so now we're finna talk about Superman. I literally just seen this movie yesterday. I ain't debate with my friend, but we talked about this movie before it came out and after it came out. I said before the movie came out that I think it was gonna be. I said it's gonna be probably about a 7, cause I think Fantastic Four gonna be better than it. And I said it was probably gonna, Fantastic Four probably gonna be like a 8. I feel like I was right. I feel like I was right. I feel like Superman was about a 7.5. The same thing as the Jack Boys 2 album. I feel like the movie wasn't. It was good, but I don't think it was amazing. I feel like it definitely had some stuff with it that was like, I can see the potential in it, and I want to see where it go from this. I feel like the movie was definitely like they were going in the right direction. Basically, like they had good colors, they had a couple good characters on there, had a couple good scenes on there, and I feel like they actually tried to make a good movie, but it just didn't execute well to me. Like certain things was not there. Like I feel like the dude who played Superman, I feel like he was good, but he was a little flat to me. And he was cockeyed and it threw me off. I was very distracted. Especially when they had him fighting himself. I was very distracted because his other version was really cockeyed. I think the long hair brought out his cockeyedness even more. It was weird. Mr. Terrific was dope. I like Mr. Terrific. Because at first when they showed Mr. Terrific, he was just floating in the chair with the little balls. I thought they were lame. But then while seeing more of him, I was like, okay, nah, he cool. He cool. I ain't gonna lie, he cool. He cool. He cool. And Lex Luthor stole the show. Lex Luthor stole the show. And I'm happy about that. A good villain equals a good movie. I feel like if Lex Luthor wasn't as good as he was, the movie would be trash. But Lex Luthor was the best part of the movie. Nicholas Hoult always do good in every movie he in. I like Nicholas Hoult. I always like Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult be doing his thing though. I like everything he in, to be honest. Superman is definitely a good movie. It's not an amazing movie, but it's good. So if people hate on it, I kind of can see it. But at the same time, I don't see how they can be like, this shit trash. Nah, that's cap. It was a couple stuff on there. Like CGI was bad too. Like the little baby, green little baby. That was ugly, I ain't gonna lie. All the little big monsters, they were kind of ugly, but it wasn't that bad. At the same time, it wasn't horrible. Also, mind you, I'm not a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And James Gunn made those. So I feel like his movies just not the type of comedy that I'm like, cause he more on some like quippy and comedy type stuff. But I feel like it's just not my cup of tea. But like I said, I like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 though. That movie hit. Superman wasn't that bad, like I said. So I look forward to see what else they got. Let's look at this video and see what Easter eggs was in there to see what I missed. I stayed to the end of the movie to see if there was a end credit. It was like him just sitting on the moon with Crypto. I don't know if there's anything else, so I'm gonna see now. Also, another thing I didn't like was just them throwing Supergirl in there, and she went. And I just didn't like how she was like. I don't like how she acted, but it is what it is. Let's see what Easter eggs we missed.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a scene-by-scene breakdown of everything you missed in Superman, the 2025 film written and directed by James Gunn, the launch of the new DC universe starring David Corenswet, Nicholas Hoult, and Rachel Brosnahan, a movie packed with Easter eggs and easy-to-miss details. As you may have seen in my review, I loved this movie, and I'm so excited to share the hundreds of reasons why. Spoilers ahead, and look up, I'm wearing our Doghouse of Solitude shirt design, available exclusively in our merch store, nerdriot.shop, along with other Superman-inspired designs like this Super Kiss shirt. Getting one of these as a gift for yourself or for a loved one is a great way to support New Rockstars. Please and thank you. And this video is sponsored by Yamava Resort and Casino. We'll tell you more about them later on. Okay, the film opens with the DC Studios title card, with Superman breaking the chains. This animation also preceded the 2024 Super Slash Man Christopher Reeve documentary and every episode of the animated Creature Commando series. Superman is shown in his original suit design from Joe Shuster's 1938 Action Comics #1 cover art with the S emblem with a yellow border and trunks so shaded in shadow that they initially appear all black. Though we should note, Shuster did not add the black field to the emblem until Superman #4 in 1940. This is also the design inspiration for Max Fleischer's 17 Superman animated shorts from 1941 to 1942, but the hair and face of this Superman is thinner and more penciled like Shuster's original design. Both visual takes on the character were key components to the DNA of of this movie. Our opening shot shows Antarctica, a barren, icy tundra. Now, traditionally, the Fortress of Solitude is in Arctic ice, but more recent comics, like the post-crisis 1989 Action Comics Annual number 2, established the fortress to be in Antarctica. James Gunn and his crew shot this in the Adventdalen Valley in Svalbard, Norway. We hear the classic opening trumpet notes of John Williams' Superman theme from the 1978 Richard Donner film. And even Richard Donner said that he edited that film in a way so that the score sounded like it was enunciating the words Superman. So by resampling those notes here, James Gunn and composer John Murphy want to put that name in our heads. But then John Murphy's music does something interesting. It transposes
Bro, how
John
he be going to so much
Williams'
detail
theme to an
about this?
electric
How he
guitar.
be learning this stuff? He do this for everything. They even did this for Kendrick Lamar versus Drake.
Anthem is performed in C major, but John Murphy decides to go with D major instead. Why does he do that? Well, this might be because D major is also the same key as Harold Faltermeyer's electric guitar solo from the Top Gun anthem. And you could say with this movie, James Gunn is kind of trying to revitalize the Superman brand the same way Joseph Kosinski.
I low-key want to watch this movie again. I ain't gonna lie. My friend, he said he's seen it twice, but he loves Superman, so I understand. My mama, but the thing is, my mama loves Superman too, and even she said the movie went all that. My mama loves Superman. She the only reason I seen a majority of Superman movies. I seen majority of them already. Like I seen majority of the old ones and the recent ones. And she even says this one wasn't even all that. So, but she said she liked the worse than she liked the less than I did though. That's crazy.
He did with 2022's Top Gun Maverick, and based on what I'm seeing, he has succeeded in that. Text on screen establishes some
Superman was getting his ass whooped so much, bro. I thought the goal was to make it like people would stop saying he boring and corny and lame, but this made it even worse to me. He was getting his ass whooped so much, bro. It was ridiculous. I don't know what they was going for. It was bad.
critical exposition. 3 centuries ago, the first superpowered beings, known as metahumans, appeared on Earth, ushering in a new era of gods and monsters. 3 decades ago, an extraterrestrial baby was sent in a spacecraft to Earth and adopted by Kansas farmers. 3 years ago, the baby, now grown, announced himself as Superman, the most powerful metahuman of all. 3 weeks ago, Superman stopped the country of Baravia from invading Jarampur, sparking controversy around the world. 3 hours ago, a metahuman called the Hammer of Baravia attacked Superman in the city of Metropolis. 3 minutes ago, Superman lost a battle for the first time. So, Gods and Monsters is the name James Gunn chose for the first phase of his DC Studios slate when he announced his plans back in January 2023. The director, best known for Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, had also directed the 2021 The Suicide Squad for DC and then the Peacemaker spin-off series, both of which led to Warner Brothers hiring James Gunn and his longtime manager and successful producer Peter Safran as the co-heads of DC Studios in October 2022. They were tasked with rebooting the DC franchise after the DCEU Zack Snyder era, overseen by the outgoing Walter Hamada. And this Superman film, at one point titled Superman Legacy, is the first film as part of that new DC universe.
That makes Superman look cool.
Note a recurring theme of the number 3. And this feels like the kind of way the obsessive Lex Luthor has analyzed Superman in this movie, using a scripted repetition of 3 as part of like a slideshow presentation to show how Superman has been a game changer to human society and how he's trying to neutralize him. Now, Lex Luthor doesn't know that Superman was raised in Kansas, but I also wonder if the recurring number 3 could just be a loose nod to the importance of the DC Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. The silent peace of Antarctica is broken when Superman crash lands in the snow, battered and bleeding from a battle with Lex Luthor's Hammer of Baravia. His arrival here tells us that he fled Metropolis because he was too wounded to continue fighting, and he knew that he needed to be back in the fortress to recharge, but he couldn't make it all the way. So we begin this movie in medias res, and there's no flashbacks to the past 3 years or to Superman's youth. It's a bold choice, but James Gunn felt that we had seen Superman's origin as the last son of Krypton enough times to know what that origin was. Gunn has also said that we don't ever need to see Martha Wayne's pearls falling to the ground ever again, suggesting that in his DCU, we won't get a classic Batman origin either. Superman in this movie is played by David Corenswet, a Philadelphia-raised Jewish actor known from roles in Twisters and The Politician, and like Christopher Reeve, graduated from Juilliard. Superman here lays in a fetal position. He He was a baby when he arrived to Earth in Kansas, and it's also similar to Yamcha's death pose meme from DBZ, but also in James Gunn's recent cameo in Rick and Morty Season 8, it ends with him getting shot on a rooftop on the Warner Brothers lot and bleeding out in the same pose. Since this is a reboot of Superman, we noticed right away how the bright colors of his suit contrast against the blank white canvas of the ice. All right, let's talk about the suit. Right away, the red trunks are back, baby, after their absence in the 2011 New 52 redesign of the character in the comics and in Zack Snyder's DC films. James Gunn and Zack Snyder, believe it or not, folks, are actually pretty friendly with each other. And Gunn said that he asked Snyder how he could ever make the trunks work, and Snyder said that he could never figure it out. But James Gunn and his costume designer, Juliana Makowski,
I didn't even notice it, I ain't gonna lie.
Anyway, because Gunn and David Cornsweet has
I didn't even
stated
notice
that
the
originally
trunks.
in the comics, Superman's bright red trunks and the big ol' S chest emblem were meant to be a little corny by design so that this godly powered alien wouldn't frighten children. And so that's how they leaned into it. It actually informed their entire take on this movie. This new Superman suit has a cape with a yellow emblem on it, which reminds us of the original Christopher Reeve design. This also appeared on Superman's cape in the 2005 All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, that both James Gunn and David Cornsweet list as a primary comic inspiration for this story. Not in terms of plot necessarily, but in the tone of it. Another detail on the suit is the new chest emblem with a yellow border that evokes the 1940s Max Fleischer design and the yellow border from the Earth 1 Superman. The S is formed by just one thick diagonal line, a shape that comes directly from 1996's Kingdom Come art by Alex Ross. The suit also has a slightly raised collar, inspired by the New 52 relaunch of the character from artist Jim Lee. Jim Lee is now the head of DC Comics publishing division, and in a crazy coincidence, both he and James Gunn lived in Manchester, Missouri as teenagers and saw Richard Donner's Superman at the same exact theater, the Des Paris, on the same exact opening weekend in December 1978. It would almost be destiny that they would be leading the two parts of DC's brand. Superman coughs up blood and a tear beads in his eye. It's a startling image to open a Superman movie with, but this immense pain immediately humanizes the character in ways we're not used to seeing. Coughing up blood would also mean his lung is punctured, making the whistle he's about to emit especially painful. In the distance, snow powder kicks up, and here comes Krypto. Krypto, aka Superdog, first appeared as a companion to Superboy in Adventure Comics number 210 in March 1955. See, the planet Krypton actually has parallel evolution, resulting in dogs, cats, birds, and simians, and Krypto was a canine companion to the toddler Kal-El on his home planet. Jor-El sent out Krypto first as a test pilot in a prototype rocket before they sent out Kal-El, and Krypto's rocket was knocked off course for years until eventually landing on Earth to be reunited with a teenage Superboy. Now, in the 1980s, DC wiped Krypto from their main content.
What if animals here had powers? What would we do with that type of mutation? What would we do if animals here had powers? Will we starve to death? Will we even made it this far? Like, the animals had super strength, flying, laser vision, super speed, electricity, flames and shit. What will we do? We'll just be vegetarians at that point. Got no choice. But they would literally rule the world. Or at the same time, what if they just act like normal animals? They just happen to have powers though. Like, what if they just didn't? They could probably take over the world. They probably still think the same way they think and act the same way they act, but just have power. So we probably still be the top of the food chain. Unless lions or tigers and shit had it, then it'd be over with. Huh.
Continuity in an effort to make a more grounded Superman. But the dog remains a beloved figure and proudly returned in recent comics. And so he shows up here. Now, Krypto has advanced smell and advanced hearing, so Superman's whistle can reach Krypto from any place on Earth. Krypto also has human-level intelligence, with his thoughts being represented via speech balloons. James Gunn based Krypto's behavior in this movie on his rescue dog, Ozu. Ozu destroyed Gunn's home and his shoes, his furniture, a laptop, but he's still a good, sweet pup. Over the years, Krypto is usually depicted as a white dog of generic pedigree, but for the visual reference, they use this dog named Jolene. Gunn's VFX team used a similar process on what they used for Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. A real animal reference used for some takes, but for close-ups, an impressive VFX render. Like, the VFX on Krypto in this movie are seamless. Krypto looks so good. Krypto wears a yellow collar with a Superman shield emblem medallion. This collar holds up Krypto's red cape, which stays perfectly draped on Krypto's back, more than any cape actually would on any dog. But Kryptonian fabric does defy Earth's gravity in unusual ways, and it is a movie. It does look better this way. Krypto pounces the crap out of Superman, and they mix in some comic booky thwacks on some of the hits. Superman says,
Krypto, take me me home.
Yeah, Crypto is just a Superman.
After I got healed, I had to beat that dog ass. I'm playing. But he was playing too much, dog. I'm like, nigga, you see me hurt? What you doing? Nah, Crypto was playing too much the whole movie. He had no chill, bruh.
Character we haven't seen enough because past filmmakers might have thought he's too silly to be in the super family in a movie, and I think watching this we see how silly that notion was. Crypto's presence in this movie shows that David Cornsweet's take on the DC icon is the hero we didn't know that we needed, and part of that humanization is what's revealed in the final scene. It's not even his dog. He's really spending this whole movie dog sitting for his cousin. I mean, what's more of a relatable experience than that? Crypto drags a face down Superman by his cape up to the Fortress of Solitude as his ice pillars burst out of the snow. The sudden explosion of these pillars is just stunning to behold. The whole look of the Fortress of Solitude actually originated not in the comics, but with John Barry's designs for the 1978 Superman film. Previously, it was like a cave carved into a cliff, opened by a giant key. The look of the ice columns was since adopted into comics canon. The door of the fortress is the shape of the shield, and the fact that it opens automatically tells us that there must be something in Kal-El's DNA. I love the little VFX details here. Clumps of snow drop from the ice pillars as they rise, and when Crypto barks to open the door, when the door opens, his tail wags. Crypto drags him inside, and he's greeted by his robots. These are the Superman robots, taken directly from the 2011 animated film All-Star Superman, which was based on that comic run I keep mentioning. But in the 2011 animated film, the Superman robots help Superman around the Fortress of Solitude, and they lend a hand during his fight with Solarius, where many of them get destroyed. The four that greet him are number 4, voiced by Alan Tudyk, longtime voice actor and live action actor who voices Clayface and Dr. Phosphorus in James Gunn's Creature Commandos series. There's number 1, voiced by longtime Gunn collaborator Michael Rooker, who plays Yondu in the Guardians movies. Number 12, voiced by Grace Chan. And number 5, voiced by Pom Klementieff, aka Mantis from Gunn's Guardians movies. We also hear some Kryptonian language in the background.
Hey, Colonel.
And as we see, these are the voices of Kal-El's birth parents from Krypton. His father, Jor-El, played by Bradley Cooper, another Guardians actor returning.
I knew Bradley Cooper, he just didn't look like him at the same
played
time.
by Angela Sarafian, who played Clementine in Westworld. In past Superman stories, the Kryptonian language is made to sound like English. But here, James Gunn uses new extraterrestrial linguistics for the alien culture. This serves an important plot point later as Lex and the engineer decipher the translation, but also underscores what James Gunn has said about this movie being an immigrant story. Superman comes from a place where people speak a different language. Number 4 says he put on this recorded message from his parents to soothe Superman, but since it was damaged in transit from Krypton, the message glitches and gets cut off. At the end of this movie, Superman will be soothed by recordings of love from his true parents. But this part of the message translates to, "We love you more than heaven, our son. We love you more than land. Our beloved home will soon be gone forever. But hope vitalizes our hearts, and that hope is you, Kal-El. We have searched the universe for a home where you can do the most good and live out Krypton's truth, and that place is Earth." And then the rest is cut off. And I love the phrase, "we love you more than land," because it suggests that their word for Krypton is just like what translates to land. And the way that in certain cosmic stories, the word for Earth is Terra, which is like a derivative of our word for land. They do a medical report, realizing he has 14 fractured bones. Number 5 says he has damage to his kidneys, his bladder, his large intestines, and yes, his lungs. Now, since Superman draws his power from our yellow sun, the robots use a magnifying device to amplify solar radiation and focus it on him, and we hear those bones and organs shifting and setting during the rapid healing process, which, yeah, must be quite painful. And I love how the whole Fortress of Solitude rotates during this process to face the sun, like a giant sunflower. While Superman is recovering, we see that the engineer, Angela Spica, is hiking through the snow to locate the fortress. So the only reason the Hammer of Bravia and Lex allowed Superman to retreat was so that they could find out where the fortress was, so that they could later mine this fortress for Superman's embarrassing secrets. The engineer in this movie is played by Maria Gabriela de Faria. The engineer is a character from DC Comics with a shape-shifting metallic body. In this movie, the character has been injected with nanites that allows her this ability. She works for Lex Luthor, and de Faria has actually implied a kind of work wife sexual energy
Type shit. But she was actually kind of cool. I ain't gonna lie. Her character was kind of cool. I was surprised. I thought from the trailer it was gonna be corny, but she was kind of cool. She low-key gave me energy of that girl from Kingsman with the sword for feet. I think she had sword for feet. Yeah, she kind of gave me that energy. But damn.
between the two, but that was really just how she played it. Superman, now recharged to 83%, argues with the robots over letting Krypto wreck the place. He makes the pup stay behind as he blasts off right back into the fight. Now, this movie doesn't make us wait too long to get into the flight imagery, and it really delivers. James Gunn partnered once again with cinematographer Henry Bram, who also shot Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and The Suicide Squad, and in this movie is using a combination of the Leica Tri-Elmar lens, which allows in-shot shifting among 3 focal lengths of 16mm, 18mm, and 21mm. He paired this lens with the Red V Raptor, which is a large format cinema
they're
camera.
going in
Bram
great
also
detail. What
is
the
using
fuck?
a Stabilize Nano.
I'm here
which
for
was really
Superman.
devised for his work in
Okay.
2021's The Suicide Squad, but an earlier version of Stabilize was used in Sam Mendes's 1917. So really, this is what gives the movement such a smooth fluidity, and the lens allows for intense focus on David Cornsweet's face as he emotes his urgency to get back into the
his
fray.
eyes two
All of
different
these
sizes?
pieces of technology come together to give this Superman film a different look than what we are used to seeing, that some of you cannot help but see as just artificial or rubbery or warped, but others are appreciating as bright, hyper-focused, smooth, and kinetic. Some are also complaining about peripheral stretching on like Superman's boot and
See, I mess with the brightness and I like the rubbery look of it. It just, the CGI is kind of bad though. To me, to my standards, kind of bad. But it's not too bad to the point where, like, it's just to make the movie trash, nothing like that. But it's not that bad. Ain't nothing to trip about.
preceding scene to try to claim this is all AI or VFX mistakes. No,
Wait,
Gunn's mission is to emphasize the surreal and the fantastical. It isn't just in the dialogue and the costuming, it's in the technology he uses to compose these shots. It's meant to feel like a comic book come to life. Now,
That's
since
the
James
best
Gunn
part
had the
right
high
there.
bar of the
Killing them
1978 movie's tagline of "You will believe a man can fly" and all the
Thank you for
groundbreaking special
following
effects that
Natalie
Richard
Hudson.
Donner's team to make us believe that Christopher Reeve was actually flying.
Woo-hoo.
James Gunn could not let the flying in this movie look bad, and he said that one of his mistakes when
Thank
he
you,
was
thank you,
shooting
thank
Adam
you.
Warlock's flying this way in Guardians Volume 3 is that it was hard to show the impact of the air on the face when they're flying at super speeds. So with this movie,
Once
they
I
did
hit
do a
50,
little VFX animation on
once I
David
hit 50
Cornsweet's
followers,
hair
I'll be able to get
better sell the fact
subscribers.
that he was flying. Superman flies past the camera and his chest emblem fills the screen, giving this movie its title logo. Back in Metropolis, the Hammer of Baravia declares to innocent civilians that the country of Baravia will
26.
not allow Superman to interfere in its affairs. So Baravia was first mentioned as a fictional European monarchy in the DC world, consumed in a civil war all the way back in Superman #2 in 1939. In this film, that is in an armed conflict with another country, Jarhanpur. So Jarhanpur comes from Justice League America #62 in 2002, a country ruled by hereditary ruler Rama Khan with roots 3,000 years back and connections to Atlantis and Aquaman. In recent weeks before the events of this movie, Baravia moved to invade Jarhanpur, and Superman interfered with that, which has led Lex Luthor to partner with the leader of Baravia, President Gurkos, into this ploy of dressing up Ultraman as the Hammer of Baravia and making it seem like Superman's interference had a blowback effect on everyday Americans in Metropolis. Since it is Ultraman under that armor and a Superman clone, he has the same heat vision that Superman does. He uses this heat vision to attack an office building, and if you look closely in this conference room, it's a pitch meeting for an advertisement for Choco's Cookies. That's the in-universe DC Oreo equivalent. That's the favorite cookie of Martian Manhunter. You can see their logo on the screen on the far left, and the wall is covered in giant sandwich cookies dancing in a wave of milk, and the creative exec has a pointer pitching storyboard art for a commercial where apparently a Choco cookie rises like a sun or maybe forms a solar eclipse, and you can see slogans like "Taste of Happiness," and they all have bottles of milk that they're using for taste tests. Seems like part of this meeting is to try to get the alien Martian Manhunter to be the spokesman for this solar campaign. Now, everything the Hammer Baravia does and says is pre-scripted and played from a command center in Luthor Corp Tower. James Gunn calls the company Luthor Corp in this movie and not LexCorp as a deliberate nod to it being Luthor Corp in the Smallville series, and how that opens up a possible future storyline for us to meet a Lionel Luthor in the DCU. As we saw in JLA Comics from 2003, Lex's company building has 2 towers, both in the shape of L's back to back, with this central bridge that we will see later is capable of popping out as its own floating structure. For the city of Metropolis, James Gunn shot in Cleveland, Ohio, which is an important city to the history of Superman as the hometown of co-creator Jerry Siegel. And Cleveland partly inspired parts of Metropolis, though it was also believed to be based partly on Joe Shuster's hometown of Toronto. Several of the iconic parts of the Cleveland skyline are visible throughout the film, but this city has been augmented with several taller skyscrapers. Lex Luthor in this film is played by Nicholas Hoult, who played the later version of Hank McCoy, Beast in Fox's X-Men films, as we've seen in big screen takes on Lex Luthor by Gene Hackman, Kevin Spacey, Jesse Eisenberg, and pretty good small screen takes by Michael Rosenbaum and John Cryer. Nicholas Hoult plays him as a maniacal tech bro, whom James Gunn Gunn said was based on one particular page of a prison swole Lex from All-Star Superman. In this command center, all of Lex's minions are names from the comics. Sarah Sampaio plays Eve Tessmacher, Lex's assistant, and a character who was originally created for the 1978 film, where she was played by Valerie Perrine, and then the character was later added to the comics and other series. She times a selfie perfectly with the hammer throwing Superman down, which is a clue for a key plot point later. Eve Tessmacher always gets a perfectly timed selfie that Jimmy Olsen and the Daily Planet staff will use to exonerate Superman. Also in the room is Terrence Rosemore playing Lex. Character was later added to the comics and other series. She times a selfie perfectly with the hammer throwing Superman down, which is a clue for a key plot point later. Eve Tessmacher always gets a perfectly timed selfie that Jimmy Olsen and the Daily Planet staff
type shit
will use to exonerate Superman. Also in the room is Terrence Rosemore playing Lex's classic henchman, Otis, who hilariously in the credits of this movie is given the last name of Berg, making his full name Otis Berg, a reference to the joke in the 1978 film where he added Otisburg to Lex's new West Coast map, and Otisburg as a location was later adopted as part of the DC map in the Gotham area. Stevie Blakeheart, longtime collaborator of James Gunn, back from their days at Troma Studios, and someone who has appeared in nearly all of James Gunn's films, plays in this movie Sidney Happerson. Sidney Happerson showed up as one of Lex's scientists back in Superman Volume 2, Number 2 in 1987, looking a lot like how Blakeheart looks in this movie, and then the character was killed off 7 years later. Giovanni Cruz plays Cheryl Kimball, who appeared as the head of LexCorp's Space Division in 1995 Superman vs. Aliens, and had a role in the live-action Superman and Lois series. Natasha Halevi plays Amanda Marie McCoy, another LexCorp scientist from that same 1987 issue where Sidney Happerson first appeared. Bonnie Discapolo plays Miss Jessup, a LexCorp employee from 2010's action comics number 892. Paul Kim plays Larry Chin, a character from 1987's Adventures of Superman number 427, who is given cybernetic enhancement by Lex Luthor to become a minor villain, the Combator. Jonah Lees plays Dean Farr, and his brother Christian Lees plays Desmond Farr. These brothers come from 1965's Tales of the Unexpected number 90, where both brothers become versions of the Tiger Men. James Gunn's reboot of Superman has us all thinking about Superman's origins. Superman made his debut in Action Comics number 1, one of the most impactful and valuable comics ever made. And now, you, me, and anybody else who cares has a chance to win their very own thanks to Yamava Resort and Casino. Yamava Resort and Casino description below. These operatives all oversee different drone cameras that follow the Hammer and Superman in their fight and control different motor functions of Ultraman so that Lex is able to predict Superman's fight pattern and match it with a perfect counter move, yelling out codes like 12C, 18A, 34B, and 8H, kind of like a video game or like a game of Battleship, and it works. Based on what we can see on the screens, 12C is grab by the throat, 1A is downward punch, which Lex will scream over and over in the trench battle later, another is for heat vision, another is for crouching over Superman and choking him, 18A is for mid-air punch, 34B is for grab Superman's cape and pull him back, 74D is grab Superman by the foot and spin him around, 44D is use that foot to toss him down. So it seems like the letters refer to body parts and the numbers refer to the type of the hit or the grab. A is for head, B is for cape, C is for throat, D is for foot. There is a moment when Lex gives one of the Farr brothers a back rub and the guy really gets into it. There's just such a creepy, sycophantic cult worship here. The Hammer chucks Superman down to the street below. Now, when he lands, you can see a sign for Moore Avenue, which is a reference to the DC Comics writer Alan Moore, who wrote Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and For the Man Who Is Everything, and of course, Watchmen and The Killing Joke. As we will see, every street sign in this movie is named after a DC Comics writer. The building behind where Superman lands has a sign for MMMA, Metropolis Museum of Modern Art, and this prominent mural art shows a pattern of birds transitioning into a pattern of planes, which is a perfect setup for Superman to crash into this shot. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. Street vendors Reggie, played by Rudy Quintanilla, and Malik Mali Ali, played by Dinesh Thiagaraja, climb down to help Superman get back up from the crater. Lex's drone cameras record how Mali gave Superman free falafel once for helping him, one of many details that Lex's team will store and use to devastating effect later. We follow the Hammer of Bravia back to a Luthor Corp campsite, where a tent contains a portal to an artificial pocket universe, with a second portal inside that universe that leads directly back to Lex's command center, where we realize it is Ultraman under the armor. This idea of pocket universes was already established for the DCU in season 1 of James Gunn's Peacemaker series, when Peacemaker keeps his gear in what he calls a quantum unfolding chamber.
How is it so big in this place?
It's a quantum unfolding storage area. It leads to a dimensional nodule outside normal space.
The idea of pocket universes actually first appeared in DC Comics back in 1986's Crisis on Infinite Earths as part of the Time Trapper's plan to control the legion of superheroes after the Superman of Earth 1 was folded into a new Earth reality, resulting in a new history in which he had never become Superboy as a child. This was around the time when Krypto and Superman's past as Superboy were just removed from what would be considered the main canon. So in the comics, a pocket universe was more of like an independent private dimension
They going
where
into
a whole
great
history
detail.
unfolds.
I don't even know what to
Here,
say.
it's more of a localized endless
I'm like,
storage area.
I'm learning. I'm there like
using quantum mechanics, but it could lead to some more complex quantum mechanics that James Gunn could explore in the future. So Ultraman, also known as the one-worded Ultraman, and not to be confused with a Japanese character, is a Superman villain with a few different forms. He's known for a U sigil and for being kind of an equal counterpart to Superman, not like Bizarro exactly, but in many forms he is powered by kryptonite. He's not powered by kryptonite in this movie though. So the next day, Superman is now as his Clark Kent persona. He weaves through the busy pedestrian traffic, late for work, but this is all a performative act by Kal-El, who ratchets up this clumsiness as he gets closer to the Daily Planet office in case Lois or the other staff members are looking out the window. I really appreciate the choice to give Clark curly hair when it's in its moppy form, as it justifies why a single curl would be left on his forehead as Superman. Clark's work suit is a size too big to hide his Superman suit underneath, and yeah, maybe it's just David Cornsweet and Christopher Reeve sharing the experience of physical comedy training at Juilliard, but this whole performance definitely goes past the glasses. He's got the messy hair, the ill-fitting suit, the awkward posture, just the walk of a man who barely knows where he's going. From constantly bumping into things, he's struggling to maintain eye contact. No one would catch on to what Clark's been up to with this physical performance. And if you think about it, all of these performance details also add to the idea that this Superman must be really thoughtful, as it would take a wealth of concentration and observation to maintain this act over any period of time. He's constantly thinking about how not to hurt anyone or how not to disrupt anything at basically every moment.
that would be tough. Like, you literally the type of person, you can touch something and break a hole in it or destroy you. You literally got super hearing, super eyesight. You can sneeze the wrong way and blow a hole in the wall. You can flick something and destroy. You can hug somebody too hard and break them in half. That's tough. And you gotta try to act normal amongst all these people. They talk, and then the thing they said, people can't recognize it because they say he got hypno glasses on. So I guess the glasses make people who see him in a different way. Huh.
Living as Clark. He rushes into the Daily Planet building on 44 Concord Street,
Where you
which
get 'em
sits
from?
next door to a place called the Wooded Duck, a cocktail bar. And listed above is a sign for fresh handmade cupcakes, red velvet, coconut, and lemon. And of course, there's the large Daily Planet iconic globe lantern hanging above the doorway. This globe also rests on top of the building. Now, they shot this at the front of Cleveland's Leader Building, a 15-story high-rise building located at 526 Superior Avenue near East 6th Street. The doorman is reading the article that Clark published about himself from the day before with the headline, "Hammer of Boravia creates havoc downtown. Superpowered mystery man damages Metropolis." The text of the article reads, "Metropolis was targeted by a superpowered mystery man on Sunday, resulting in over $20 million in damage to the city. The self-titled Hammer of Boravia attacked downtown Metropolis, claiming it was retribution for the recent political interventions in Boravia by Superman. This vengeful expedition turned into a terrorist assault on American soil, hospitalizing 22 Metropolis citizens. Boravia has been the source of numerous headlines worldwide in recent weeks as it invaded its neighboring country, Jarhanpur, only for the brief war to be swiftly ended by Superman. The president of Boravia, Vasil Gurkos, remains the Hammer. Boravia is not a representative of the national government, but rather an independent vigilante." There's also a lower headline on this front page reading, "More than 40 tornadoes confirmed during recent outbreak." Outside this building and inside the office, we see flags for the city of Metropolis, which established this city as being founded in the year 1646. The Daily Planet's globe-top tower actually makes it into the city's emblem on the flag. Now, we know from other background flags that Metropolis is in the state of Delaware in the DCU, which would place it directly across the bay from Gotham City, which is in South New Jersey. James Gunn confirmed that in the DCU, while there are cities like Metropolis and Gotham, Star City, Evergreen, Central City, there are not cities like New York City. There must be, however, a Washington, D.C. Now, while he does commit to the awkward Clark movement, Superman in this movie is using hypno glasses, which actually comes from Superman number 330 in 1978, when it's established that Superman actually uses a form of super hypnosis in combination with his glasses to make it so that when someone looks at him while he is wearing the glasses, his face just looks different in their eyes. It's kind of silly, but it's often the go-to comics logic for why his co-workers don't recognize him under the glasses. That is, if you don't just buy the performative aspect. Superman later hints at this with Lois.
The glasses.
And Green Lantern Guy Gardner goes into it a lot more with Lois in the Hall of Justice.
How do you even know Superman anyway?
I just do.
So you know about the hypno glasses?
Now she does.
Well, I'm not saying who he is, just that he wears hypno glasses. They make his face terrific. How do they work? They make his face look different in your brain when he wears them so that you know who he is.
Yes, I know this.
So you know he's Clark Kent.
Why does he trust everyone?
He doesn't. Just us, because we are also of the cloth.
Of the cloth?
So it's not clear if this is Superman's own Kryptonian tech via the robots, plus part of his powers, or by Guy asking Mr. Terrific this if Mr. Terrific helped build these for Superman. But when you watch Corn Sweat enter the Daily Planet, notice how the glasses do droop on his nose, as he doesn't need them to see, and he tilts his head down to avoid eye contact when he passes his boss Perry White. Editor-in-Chief Perry White is played by Wendell Pierce from The Wire, and played a role as a congressman in Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts this summer. With a cigar in his mouth, he gives Clark a look that matches the look he gives Superman at the end of the movie, like he's so keen of a journalist that no hypno glasses will fool Chief. The coffee that Clark carries is from Jitters Coffee. Jitters, or CC Jitters, is a coffee shop in the DC universe known as a stop favored by The Flash in Central City. In the news bullpen, there's a broadcast from News Network Sphere with comedian Michael Ian Black playing a pundit host named Clevis Thornweight, complaining about Superman getting involved in international policy. When James Gunn started shooting the film in early July 2024, Michael Ian Black tweeted James Gunn asking if he could be in the movie, and I guess James Gunn got back to him saying sure. Clark first passes sports columnist Steve Lombard, played by Beck Bennett. The character of Steve Lombard was based partly on Ted Baxter from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, with his physical appearance based on Broadway Joe Namath, which Bennett evokes here with that thick mustache. While Steve mocks Clark for using too many adverbs, he is a total Superman stan. He wears a Superman lapel pin. In the photos over his desk, there are numerous images of Superman among the sports photos, including the iconic Superman for Tomorrow issue by Jim Lee, showing Superman with his leg perched on a gargoyle. Clark gets a call from his foster parents, Martha Ma Kent, played by Neva Howell, and Jonathan Pa Kent, played by Pruitt Taylor Vince. Yes, Jonathan Kent is still alive, despite many of you perhaps assuming that his death was a
See, I was telling my mama after that, I was like, I thought Superman dad only died in that one thing. She said, nah, he always did. And everything he owned, I was like, dang, I didn't know that. So I was like, so you basically his Uncle Ben. So I guess you were right. My mama definitely know what she be talking about when it comes to Superman.
Major canon event from the 1978 film, in 2013's Man of Steel. In the original comics, both the Kents die right after Clark graduates high school, but in the post-crisis continuity, starting with John Byrne's run in 1986, both parents were alive well into Superman's adulthood. This was until Brainiac kills Jonathan Kent in Action Comics 870 in 2008. Then in the New 52 reboot, starting in 2011, the Kents were killed by a drunk driver after dropping off Clark at prom. Years later, that was revealed to be Dr. Manhattan meddling to see how Clark would turn out without their guidance. Finally, in the DC Rebirth continuity since 2019, they have been alive and well again. The way the edit cuts off Beck Bennett as he shouts, "Ma!" back to Ma Kent shouting into the speakerphone on the farm, it's just so damn funny. Steve asks if they're gonna be grilling some chitlin, and he doesn't even know what chitlin is, but Cat Grant chimes in saying it's intestines. I just like how everyone who works at the Daily Planet in this movie just has a decent range of journalistic expertise. Cat Grant is a gossip columnist of the Daily Planet, played by Michaela Hoover. Throughout the newsroom, we can see monitors showing streams for GBS, that's Galaxy Broadcasting System, the DC in-universe news service. We saw that in Creature Commandos. Jimmy Olsen celebrates with Clark having a front page story. Jimmy is played by Skylar Gisondo, and he gets a running bit in this movie about him being an inexplicable ladies man. And I guess inexplicable is up to you. He is a very charming person. On Jimmy's desk, you can see a photo of Superman waving at the camera, probably a photo Jimmy took, but there's also a photo of him macking it with two women. Two interns flirtily wave at him.
That isn't one of them.
Very funny, Lois.
Oh my God, he's so fine.
I mean, it's not just that all these women are so into Jimmy, it's the fact that he's just so unfazed by it. He's just so used to it. I mean, I think my man is packing some heat. On Clark's desk is a jar of peanut butter, which is a reference to Clark having a jar of peanut butter on his desk in Superman for All Seasons. And then on his board is a little poster for the Mighty Crabjoys, the in-universe band that he tells Lois that he loves, and he has a poster up in his Smallville bedroom. The Mighty Crabjoys also show up on a billboard in Peacemaker Season 2. We meet this movie's Lois Lane, played amazingly by Rachel Brosnahan, whom you should know from The Marvelous Miss Maisel, plays the star reporter with the dogged curiosity and no tolerance for bullshit. She returns from the coffee station with a Daily Planet mug, which you know she filled with sugar. Behind her, the GBS broadcast has a chyron. Towns flooded following extreme weather might be connected to the tornadoes mentioned on the Daily Planet front page beneath the fold. The walls of this newsroom have murals depicting a linotype printing press, old-timey living room radios, and the dawn of television. So the Daily Planet is depicting the evolution of the way the public has gotten their news. There's also a screen that shows the members of the Justice Gang in the background behind Lois, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner Green Lantern, and Kendra Saunders Hawkgirl, whom we will meet a bit later. Lois prods Clark on how he gets so many one-on-one interviews with Superman. Jimmy says,
I think it's pretty obvious the goal was kicking Superman's ass.
Oh, he didn't completely kick Superman's ass.
Pretty thoroughly, Clark.
I love how deep Corin Sweat's voice goes on that line. He's using his big boy Superman voice. On the TV, we see an address by Baravian President Vasil Gurkos, played by Zlatko Buric, who played a Russian oligarch in that disaster movie 2012. Gurkos is actually the name of an obscure tyrant from Wonder Woman comics who rules the moon of Phobos. Onto the Pentagon. Lex Luthor is presenting to a gathering of the Secretary of Defense, General Mori, played by James Hiroyuki Liao, and General Rick Flag Sr., Frank Grillo, who played Crossbones in the MCU and voiced a version of Rick Flag Sr. who looks different in the animated Creature Commandos, rather like a muscular James Gunn if you ask me, but I'm sure this shift in appearance will be explained when Flag comes back in Peacemaker Season 2. There's also Florence Crawley, who is now director of Argus. Tanashi Kaisi Bolden returns to play the character after appearing in 2021's Suicide Squad, and Luis R. Hernandez plays Albert Tyler, an attorney general in the DC Comics. Lex pitches that the Engineer and Ultraman and Lex's army of armored warriors called Raptors, who wear the green and purple armor of Lex's Lexbots from the comics, are all part of what he calls Planet Watch. Lex wants to use Planet Watch to lock up all metahumans, starting with the most dangerous of them, the alien Superman. Attorney General Tyler brings up kryptonite and says as far as they can ascertain, there is none left on the planet, to which Lex says he has a workaround, referring to what he's going to do with Metamorpho. But the question here is, what happened to the fragments of kryptonite that would be on Earth? I can't imagine any other metahuman or vigilante would have helped get rid of kryptonite, because they would have needed it as like a potential security measure against an alien metahuman they don't know that well. So perhaps it was a joint measure by Kal-El and Kara using the robots that went on a mission to sweep it all off world. Or maybe it was all collected by someone like Maxwell Lord and he has it all. Or maybe Batman has it all. Lois comes home to find Kal-El, sans glasses, cooking dinner for their 3-month anniversary of dating. They kiss, but Lois grills him for the ethical issues of her interviewing himself, so he offers to let her interview him right now. He says,
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Yes, referring to the great journalist Walter Cronkite, which means the DCU shares some overlap with our own world, as was the case with the Donnerverse of Superman and Superman 2, where real-world journalists like Rex Reed would cameo as colleagues of Lois Lane. Making the Daily Planet feel like a real newsroom is a critical part of the DNA of this film, as Richard Donner established that setting of great 1970s journalism films like All the President's Men and Network. This whole setup here is to remind you of that classic scene in the 78 Donner Superman film, when Superman, as Superman, agrees to let Lois Lane interview him for the Daily Planet so that the public won't see him as a threat. But the twist here is that Lois knows that Clark is Superman, making the interview here less nervous and flirty and more aggressive and probing. Lois uses a Lord Tech brand audio recorder. Lord Tech is a tech company of all the hardware used by Daily Planet employees, part of the company of Maxwell Lord. There's a framed photo to the right of Kal-El that shows Lois's name written in clouds, suggesting that Superman, perhaps to woo her in the past few months, spelled her name out in the clouds. There's also a framed Daily Planet front page, probably a Lois story, with the headline, Stag Informants Threaten International Stability. So Stag Industries is another big company in this universe, the lobby of which Superman later takes a quiet moment. It's headed by Simon Stagg, father to Sapphire Stagg, the lover of Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, and Simon was behind the experimentation that made Rex the way he is. So maybe Lois' story was about how some whistleblowers at Stagg, maybe even Rex himself, blew the lid open on something so big it disrupted all of the company's international dealings. And Stagg, in retribution, could have had Lex lock up Rex in that pocket universe prison, and that's why Rex was already there. Lois asks if Superman, after stopping the Baravian tanks, met with Vasil Gurkos, and Superman said he did, and flew him out in the desert and placed him against a cactus. Lois says that Jaranpur doesn't have a great history of leadership, implying that its hereditary leader, Rama Khan, had some time as a villain in the past with the likes of Aquaman or Wonder Woman, since those would have been the older metahumans on Earth. This scene goes on for 12 minutes. It's 10% of the movie's total runtime, but we don't really feel it way down the movie. It's so good, and it's
That's
so
true. It did feel like a short.
And Lois's gotcha questions are just so rapid fire and unrelenting, while David Corn Sweat goes from being comedically defensive to angrily defensive.
People were going to die.
Then Lois shifts the subject to social media.
You've gotten a lot of heat on social media lately.
I don't read that stuff. Superman doesn't have time for selfies.
Superman won't say where his cradle ship crash landed because Smallville, Kansas would help any of his enemies find his parents' farm. Since they've only been dating for 3 months, it seems like Lois doesn't even know about Smallville, because when she meets his parents later on, that's the first time they meet. We also learn how Superman is particularly triggered by the hashtag super shit. We later see that that was written by Lex's monkeys. James Gunn's history with social media definitely plays a role in this movie. From 2007 to 2012, James Gunn had a reputation as like kind of a punk
ugly
horror filmmaker, provocateur.
Age done him
media,
right, no homo,
often
but
make very
this
inappropriate
dude
jokes. He
that's
stopped
not
doing
it.
this around 2012. He apologized for it, but then in the summer of 2018, James Gunn came under new fire from alt-right trolls for James Gunn's political posts, and those accounts dragged up his past tweets, which then led to him being fired.
Imagine
by
being called
Disney and
ill
removed as
until you
director
become
of
50
Marvel
years
Studios'
old.
Guardians of the Galaxy
That's
Volume
sad.
3. This was very premature, as it was a politically targeted attack for
Now
things that
everybody
James
saying,
Gunn had
ah.
since apologized for, behavior that James Gunn had since corrected. So this firing was followed by an outpouring of support by Gunn's collaborators, including a signed letter.
Bruh, they
by the
talking
entire
about too
cast of the
much.
Guardians films. Chris Pratt
Bruh.
and Zoe Saldana even
He doing
went
all this shit for the
person to Marvel
Superman?
and Disney, begging them to reconsider, but Disney held firm. And in that gap period, Toby Emmerich at Warner Brothers, who worked out in the same gym right next to Peter Safran, would turn over to Peter Safran and go, James Gunn, Superman, James Gunn, Superman. And this was at a time when no one was quite sure what the next steps for the DCEU would be, but James Gunn refused the Superman offer, but he did say yes to directing another Suicide Squad film for DC. Then Disney came back to James Gunn and reinstated him as Guardians director in spring 2019. James Gunn was able to finish his Guardians trilogy for Marvel, and at the same time was having a lot of success at DC with the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker spin-off series, which led to Gunn and Safran being hired to run the studio in October 2022. James Gunn has said that had he not had that dramatic experience in summer 2018, getting pilloried on social media and nearly losing his entire career for these past mistakes, he would have not been able to write this Superman script the way he wrote it. Even now, there is a number of weird cultists who refuse to move on from Zack Snyder's era of the DCEU, who are constantly attacking Gunn at every turn, rooting for this Superman movie to fail, clinging to conspiracy theories that every person who likes this movie is a paid shill. So that's just some context for the joke James Gunn makes in this movie about where these kind of angry tweets come from. In Antarctica, Lex's Osprey jet lands with himself, the Engineer, Ultraman, and Eve in a splendid Snow Bunny outfit. Lex doesn't tell the others how he
Snow
activates the
Bunny.
Fortress of Solitude, but his secret is that Ultraman is a Superman clone, and this fortress reads the
Ew.
DNA. The Superman robots confront
that
them, but
picture,
the
they wrong
Engineer
for
goes
that.
to work, shifting her nanites into these spinning buzzsaws and hacking them to pieces. At one point, she
here,
does
ah!
this insane handstand and reassembles her body right side up. Crypto flies in and pounces, clawing her face, showing that underneath her skin is no blood. It is just nanites. But the Engineer smothers the poor dog with nanites that he helplessly tries to paw off, setting up the Engineer's plan to do this to Superman later in the film. Reportedly, there was a shot that was removed after test screenings where Ultraman would have punched Crypto, but audiences hated this, so Gunn took it out. Lex goes over to the controls.
I can't stand the metahumans, but he's so much worse. Superman. He's not a man, he's an it.
I love this little gesture that Nicholas Hoult does throughout the movie, where he like sucks his teeth against his gums. It's just such a good gesture of disgust. Lex insists on calling Superman an it, and you might have caught that every time the Engineer has reported Superman's movements, she calls him an it. What Lex does here pulls from Mark Waid's 2003 Superman Birthright storyline. That arc recontextualizes Superman's origin story and features Lex Luthor learning some shocking facts about Kryptonian history that he then distributes to the press in hopes that they will turn against Superman, and he sells the fearful public on a Kryptonian invasion of Earth with this kind of Ozymandias-style false flag attack of a giant kaiju attacking Metropolis. Now, Lex's
That's a big-ass
kaiju in this
spider with
movie
worse
isn't
teeth.
him claiming it's from Krypton. It's really just a tactic to keep Superman distracted and away from the fortress while the Engineer hacks the computer files to fix and translate the corrupted video recording of Jor-El and Lara. So you could say that what we learned about Krypton's imperialist ambitions was James Gunn stealing this from the Viltrumites of Robert Kirkman's Invincible. The truth is that Kirkman's Invincible and Mark Waid's Birthright arc came out in the same year, in 2003. This is just kind of like a popular revisionist thing that a lot of comics were doing at the time. Either way, learning this about Krypton is a very, very big deal, and we'll be unpacking it more. But that night, Otis and Sydney park a Vincenzo's handyman van at the marina and release this little baby fire breather kaiju that's designed to rapidly grow. This little thing looks like it might be based on a creature called an axolotl, but it's only ever called a kaiju in this movie. We cut right away to the next day where a brave little dog barks up at the giant foot of the now giant kaiju.
Move, little man. Forget
Get out of here.
Shit heavy, bro. Superman used his super breath a lot in this movie. I ain't never see a lot of he did stuff in this movie that he haven't done since the older Superman movies. Like he uses super breath, he uses ice breath. I think he made like a little he did like the little spinning thing, like a little tornado type of thing. I ain't seen him do none of this stuff since the cartoons, to be honest. Like he was doing some stuff on here. I was like, okay, they trying to make this Superman right here. But for some reason he was slow. Like I was confused by that. Like he was slow in here to me. Like I'm used to Superman being super fast, but he wasn't really that fast on here. And he wasn't that strong either.
So in the background of this plot,
like of course he's strong as fuck. Don't get fucked up. But he wasn't as strong as I'm used to.
Night Machine by Freeman and Johnstone. Aha! This is a reference to
I'm all used to
Freeman
cartoons
and Jack Johnstone, the writers of the Superman radio serials from the 1940s.
I thought he was gonna pick up this nigga. He be struggling.
Plane detail that I talked about before. That is part of the design.
Or struggling with niggas who don't have superpowers.
The guys who coined that phrasing, which was then used in Max Fleischer's shorts. I love this Easter egg. We also see a billboard for Choco's Cookies and a burger stand for Big Belly Burger, which is a DC in-universe burger chain with a logo inspired by Bob's Big Boy. As the kaiju roars, we also see a billboard for Zesty Cola, which is a DC in-universe soda brand inspired by Pepsi. We saw a can of Zesty earlier on Sidney Saperson's terminal. There's a street sign for East Jurgens Street. Dan Jurgens was the writer and artist known for the Death of Superman storyline, who created characters like Doomsday and Booster Gold. Superman uses his super breath to blow the doggy out of harm's way. Behind the tree that it hits, there's a popsicle stand labeled Apricot City. Metropolis in the comics is referred to as the Big Apricot as a reference to New York's nickname of the Big Apple. Superman gets crushed under the foot, but then he burrows under the ground and bursts out, soaring around to slam the kaiju in the face. And you'll notice his chest emblem once again fills the screen. James Gunn actually does this a total of 3 times in the movie, in Act 1, in Act 2, and in Act 3, each time when Superman rallies after being knocked down. As Superman hits the kaiju, you can see a billboard for Metropolis Children's Hospital, and there's a large broadcast screen showing another Sphere program. The host now is played by Lawrence Gilligan, who also played a reporter in the animated Creature Commandos. I assume it's the same character. There's also a sign for a Big Belly Burger and 8, which I've assumed is a musical, kind of like 6, a musical that's about the lives of Henry VIII, but maybe this could be about Henry VIII himself. 8, kind of like a Hamilton-style historical musical. In a nearby shop, there's this guy eating yogurt. He's played by Zingu del Rosario, who has worked as a stuntman on DC titles like Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the Gods. On the TVs, there's this GBS broadcast with this pretty funny Chiron, Thing attacks Metropolis, still growing. But another fun Easter egg, you can see a business card tucked in on actually all of these TVs, Quietly and Sons. This is a nod to Frank Quietly, the artist who made All-Star Superman with Grant Morrison. The kaiju breathes fire into an office building. We see later when Superman flies upward, this is the Lord Tech building, the building of Maxwell Lord. It seems like Lord didn't deploy the Justice Gang until his building was attacked. Superman asks one of the employees if they're okay, and when they nod, I love how Corn Sweat just gives this sweet smile, like he's genuinely relieved. He tells the kaiju,
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
I love it! He flies so fast the camera can't even keep up with him and follows him up into the sun, blinding us and blinding the kaiju so that this beast won't see him when he drops back down to whack him. Superman then has to save a fleeing woman from getting crushed and tells her to take deep breaths, smiling again to reassure her. I just love how throughout this battle, his priority is keeping everyone from getting hurt. Everyone, even the thing he's trying to bring down. This mission gets complicated when the Justice Gang arrives, starting with longtime James Gunn collaborator, starting from 2006's Slither, Nathan Fillion, playing Green Lantern Guy Gardner with his classic bowl cut from the comics, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Kendra Saunders with her wings and her mace, Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific Michael Holt with his floating chair and his T-spheres. Let's take them one by one. Kendra Saunders was a 1999 reintroduction of the Hawkgirl hero as a young Hispanic woman, later clarified to be Cuban, who had taken her own life. When Kendra's soul left her body, the soul of her great aunt, her grandfather's first cousin, Shirahal, YALL, the hawk girl of the DC Golden Age, that soul entered Kendra's body, making Kendra what's called a walk-in. Originally, this era of hawk girl wore bandages on her arms as a reference to the self-harm, and that feature went away, but you do see this movie's hawk girl wearing bracers. Her armor and her tech and her mace weapon are made of the Thanagarian nth metal. But the character might be a bit more complex because according to Isabella Merced, she said this, by the way, quote, Kendra is reincarnated from an alien. So she has all those memories. The story is actually really dark. It's so up that I wonder how they're going to handle that when it comes to addressing that. So based on that quote, I think the suicide backstory is still going to be part of it, but it also seems like James Gunn might have merged the third Hawk Girl, Kendra Saunders, with the second Hawk Girl, Shayra Hull from the Silver Age, and later Hawk Woman. She was the alien Hawk Woman, the Thanagarian. So I don't know. Meanwhile, Michael Holt, Mr. Terrific, was born a genius who got 14 PhDs, but suffered tragic losses of a mentally challenged older brother and later his wife and unborn child after arguing with his wife about going to church because he didn't place faith in the supernatural. He's a self-made millionaire with a tech company called Cyberware, and in addition to his T-spheres, his T-shaped mask is actually composed of nanites, and of course he wears this iconic jacket with fair play on the sleeves. He's really the best dressed person in this film, and I just love seeing Eddie Gathega getting some major redemption in this film after appearing alongside Nicholas Hoult in 2011's X-Men First Class as the character Darwin, a supposedly indestructible mutant who gets inexplicably destroyed very early in that film. Guy Gardner as a character was originally introduced as an alternate Green Lantern to Hal Jordan back in 1968, who in the New 52 continuity was retconned to be a former Baltimore police officer who was forced off the force due to some incident. The three members of the Justice Gang are wearing matching suits supplied to them by Maxwell Lord with JG on their chests for Justice Gang, but are also the initials of James Gunn. The Justice Gang go to work on the kaiju while Superman rushes to save all the people and creatures who nearly get crushed because they don't care. This includes adorably a squirrel, and they used a real squirrel for this shot. They kept it in a clear plastic case. The kaiju stomps on a truck full of these canisters that explodes near an unsuspecting girl whom Superman rushes to save. Just the fact that this girl is wearing this particular dress with the knee socks reminds us of the little girl whose cat Superman saves in the 1978 film, but just this shot is so incredible. It might remind you of a few things. Of course, there's the shot of Clark in the opening titles of Smallville. You know, somebody say! There's also this panel from Action Comics number 1000 in 2018 by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason when Superman saves an unsuspecting kid by stopping a train feet away from him. Also, check out the labels as those canisters fly past the girl. That looks like a C within a D, so like DC, and it looks like these contain the noble gas of argon. Argon, like krypton, is considered one of the noble gases or inert gases, and it's used in welding and lighting and food packaging, 3D printing, and other industrial processes. Outside of the baseball park here, you can see a street sign, Ross Avenue. Alex Ross is the artist behind Kingdom Come, whose version of Superman inspired the design of Superman's chest emblem in this film. Actually, all the street signs throughout the film include references to comics writers and artists that we've been talking about in this video: Jim Lee, Grant Morrison, and Mark Waid. Also, Jeff Loeb, who worked on a ton of major comic storylines for DC and Marvel, including The Long Halloween, and later went on to oversee Marvel Television during the Netflix era. Superman bashes a kaiju on the head with a water tower that explodes, which has got to be a reference to the iconic Warner Brothers water tower. In the middle of this fight, we cut to an on-the-scene reporter who reports on the Justice Gang. This is real-life ABC News reporter Will Reeve, son of Christopher Reeve. The Justice Gang go for the kaiju's eyes, Kendra trying to jab the eye with her mace and then getting her arm caught in the eyelid and nearly getting blinked to death. Guy uses his ring to conjure a green mouth harness at one point, and then this kind of jackhammer device to pummel the kaiju in the eye. Eventually, they bring it down with a few exploding T-spheres in his stomach that tear apart his guts, sending him crashing to the ground. Afterwards, Superman is sad they had to kill the kaiju and wishes he could have taken it to an intergalactic zoo. Actually, the Fortress of Solitude in the DCAU does contain an alien zoo. Up on the news screen, though, a Sphere broadcast shows Clevis with Lex in the headline, Superman sent on mission to destroy us. Lex confirms the world's top linguists in computer text have validated their translation of Jor-El and Lara's recording, which now includes the second half. The people there are simple and easily confused, weak of mind and body and spirit, lord over the planet as the last son of Krypton. Dispatch of anyone unable or unwilling to serve you, Kal-El. Take as many wives as you can, so that Krypton's might and legacy will live on in this new frontier. Do us proud, our beloved son. Rule without mercy. Lex jumps to some fear-mongering conclusions that all of Superman's kind acts are really just him grooming them to prepare for his superpowered descendants to rule the Earth, and that he might already have a secret harem. I mean, the only man with a secret harem in this movie is Jimmy Olsen, am I right? Jimmy watches this broadcast with the rest of the Daily Planet staff in the office, along with the other columnists from the comics in this movie, not not really any lines. Ron Troop, played by Christopher McDonald. In the back, behind Steve Lombard, are cameos by Superman co-creator Jerry Siegel's grandsons, Michael Larson and James Larson. Superman trudges through an angry mob. Someone throws a can at his head. Now, in the first teaser, Superman flinched at this, but after some people complained, they changed the shot so that now he doesn't flinch, which I think is a good change for a number of reasons, specifically because Superman is in just kind of an emotionally shocked state. Superman goes into the lobby of Stag Industries for a quiet moment. Why this building? Well, I think it was just the closest quiet spot to the park, but this is the building of Simon Stagg. Guy, Kendra, and Michael follow him into the lobby and ask if it's true. Guy says if so, Superman is exactly the kind of alien that he was commissioned by the Green Lantern Corps to protect Earth against. So yes, Guy is not the only Green Lantern. There's a whole corps of them. We're gonna meet Hal Jordan, played by Kyle
I'm used to only watching
Stewart, played by Aaron Pierre, in the Lantern series coming to HBO next year. Nathan Fillion will
I'm
also
only used to
appear in that
watching
series as Guy.
long ass videos like this
He's gonna
when I'm
have
at
a lot
work.
of F-bombs. Superman rushes back to the Fortress of Solitude, worried about his
working,
robots
give
in
me the day
crypto.
fast.
The Leica
Look at
trying
this
to
nigga
arm
face.
really warps his outstretched arms on this flight, but it actually plays really well with
His
the
eyes are
desperation and
weird.
speed Superman must be flying with. Meanwhile, the Daily Planet scrambles to confirm this information,
Guy
and
going
we
in my
hear
nose,
Perry
for real?
snap at Jimmy, "Don't call me Chief."
Why
That's
Guy
one of
going
the
in?
exchanges between Perry and Jimmy in the 1978 film, where he keeps having
You
to
know what's crazy?
"Don't
Your
call me Chief," and then at one point he accidentally says,
your name
"Don't
is
call me
in
Sugar
green-
President
in Green Lantern
Goes,"
green.
dances
Oh,
on
yeah.
Superman's
Yeah.
reputation's grave, and then goes into his private office where we see he has his own portal that pairs with Lex's pocket universe. Lex and Ultraman have brought him a donut from Doe's Holes, a new donut shop in Park Ridge. Park Ridge is a borough and suburb in Metropolis in the comics. Lex says he wants to open a Doe's Holes in his half of Jaranpur. Superman finds number 4 glitching and stabbing himself in the head. The robot dies. Superman whistles for Crypto.
Love heroes
No
with bad
response, meaning that
personalities,
Crypto
for sure,
must
my
not
second
be
favorite.
anywhere
I
on
can
the
feel that. I feel
surface
that.
realm of this
After
planet.
just-
Superman zips
I like
back to Luthor
I'm the
Cadet,
same way.
where
Like when it
Lex
comes
is
to
in his office
anime,
with
my
Cletus.
anime well, even in superhero, cause Wolverine my favorite superhero, and he got a bad attitude. So I'm kind of the same way.
Finally made. Would you like a coffee?
Where's the dog?
I'm like that with anime superheroes.
Dog, loser! You took the dog!
I'm the same
right,
way.
you
I
get
don't know
all
who
this.
Jessica Cruz is. I don't think I ever heard of that Green Lantern.
Where's the dog?
For sure, my
I
second
have
favorite.
no clue
Yeah, I never heard of her.
what you're talking about.
I probably seen her before, but I gotta see a picture.
He's just a dog.
I don't know what dog you're talking about. Ugly dog and a cape.
What did you say?
Haha, if you look closely, on Lex's desk is a framed photo of Mr. Handsome, the creepy ferryman who shuttles them around the pocket dimension. He loves this creeper so that he has to look at him every day on his desk. The mug that Lex sips out of and uses to mask him saying ugly dog with a cape has written on it Space Lex, presumably Lex's space travel venture, and a clear nod to SpaceX, making Lex a pretty clear Elon Musk figure. Back in Clark's apartment.
Oh
the
yeah.
program
I did see that. Then I
shows
did see
Cletus
her. Then
interviewing
if you talking about that all girls show with
as
Harley
Chris
Quinn on it,
Smith,
yeah, I did see
Peacemaker.
it.
He talks some
I
major
saw that.
shit on Superman
that sucked.
and Superman's no.
I'm pretty sure she was in some
and
other
makes a
stuff. It was
comment
probably
on
like
Superman being jealous
background,
because he's not
or
as jacked
she
as
just wasn't in
Peacemaker
the
is.
front.
The reaction
I'm pretty sure she
on
was
this
in some
shows
stuff.
that
She probably in
Peacemaker's
that
a much bigger character.
she
than he
probably in that
thought he
Ryan
was.
Reynolds
It's
Green
also
Lantern
the
movie
first
for-
big screen
I'm pretty
appearance
sure.
of Peacemaker in any
She just
movie,
probably went like a
because
main character
technically,
or
the
talk.
2021
She
The
probably in it,
Suicide
though.
Squad was a streaming release, and Peacemaker was only on HBO. As Superman and Lois chat, a battle rages in the background of Metropolis as the Justice Gang take down what Superman calls a dimensional imp. This is an example of a
Agrophobia.
screenwriting
What's
concept from Save the
agrophobia?
Cat called Pope in the Pool, where dialogue is conveyed
think I
while
heard of
something
it.
visually weird is happening in frame, which we get as Guy Gardner conjures a big old green bat to bonk this imp, and eventually its dimensional blood bleeds, filling the sky with beautiful swirling colors. Lois in the scene says that she was a punk rock kid from Bakerline. Bakerline is a middle-class neighborhood in Metropolis. It's actually the neighborhood where Lex will later allow the rift to spread to. Superman claims to be punk rock too, saying that he likes bands the Strangle-Fellows, the PODs, and the Mighty Crabjoys. The PODs is actually a deep cut to James Gunn's former life as a punk rocker in the late 80s, playing with bands called the Icons, Mom, and the Pods, or PODs. The fact that Superman calls them the PODs is just kind of a funny joke to where he's only ever read their name and doesn't really know what they're called. Or I just assume that James Gunn kind of went through a Wonders versus Oneaters thing, where when he would play as this band, people didn't really know how to pronounce their name.
love
Lois
that
makes fun of him, saying that he thinks everyone he's met is beautiful. And Superman says, maybe that's the real punk
call
rock.
9 to
It's
10
kind of a
years old.
corny line, but I love it because he's
That's
saying
a
that
whole
there's even
decade.
beauty in people as evil as Lex Luthor, and that all lives are worth
That's a whole
maintaining. Hey,
decade.
I love this movie, and a surprise,
I
surprise,
guess
a
you could
certain
say
number of
recent.
folks are just convinced that no one is able to authentically enjoy anything, accusing us of being paid shills. We actually went deep into this subject in our Danger Room podcast, part of a new audio-only podcast subscription service called In Our Underground, where we do some bonus
you a girl
tangent
or a
shop
guy?
talk. If you're interested and able to support us doing that, join the In Our Underground by clicking on the link in the description.
girl. You gotta
Superman
be.
says he's going to turn himself in, hoping they'll imprison him where they keep crypto, worried that the dog is scared and alone. This movie is full of great transitions. Here we go from this stunning shot of the colorful night sky over Metropolis to Superman's face being smashed in the pavement by Ultraman. Rick Flag Sr. joins Ultraman and the engineer on taking Superman in through Planet Watch. They take him through the portal to this cell with Rex Mason, Metamorpho, played by Anthony Kerrigan, aka NoHo Hank from HBO's Barry. Now in the comics, Rex Mason is an adventurer hired by Simon Stagg to retrieve the Orb of Ra, but when Simon realizes Rex was dating his daughter, Sapphire Stagg, he arranges to have Rex knocked out and exposed to a radioactive meteorite from which the orb was made, transforming him into Metamorpho, the Element Man, which Lex actually calls him in the scene, a metahuman who can transfigure his body into any known substance. Mr. Handsome ferries their cell through the pocket universe. Lex explains he
Like
replicated
this?
the Big Bang using the Luthor Corp Mega Collider to tear a hole between two universal fabrics. Metamorpho turns his hand into kryptonite and weakens and poisons Superman. Jimmy and Lois investigate Lex's connection to Baravia. Jimmy brings
would
up
say
a contact
girl.
on his phone that he labeled Mutant Toes, whom we later learn is Eve Teskmacher, who immediately spills the tea about where Lex took Superman. You'll notice also on
I would
Jimmy's
say
phone
girl.
are names like Mary Schreiner, who actually works in the art department for this movie, and Nadia Payne. She's the unit production manager. A very, very
I
important
got-
role
oh,
on
dang,
every
my
film
bad.
set. Lex takes Superman on a tour of his pocket universe,
Only reason I
passing his
said
monkey
girl.
bots generating their rage tweets, and where he keeps Crypto
Your
distracted by
profile picture
beaming
got
visions of
anime girl.
squirrels
But
in his
dudes do
brain.
that a lot these
Just love
days.
how this plays on
Dudes
the
do
idea
do a
that
lot.
our dog is sleeping and starts
Trying to see
doing
what
this. We always
girl
say
it
chasing
is. I don't
squirrels.
know.
Next, he shows them where they keep the political prisoners, including Lex's
lot of guys do that,
ex-girlfriend
I ain't think
Florette,
about that.
played by Paige Moley, who wrote a blog about him. Gina compared this whole sequence to the various cubic cages and.
But I should have known because you said Guy
And it's
Gardner,
worth
yo,
noting
goat.
that
Girls
James
don't say
Gunn is
goat.
good friends
I should have
with
known
Drew
better.
Goddard, who directed Captain
Girls
Marvel,
don't say
did
goat.
advise him on some of the cuts of this movie.
I don't think like if I ask a girl what goat mean, I don't think shit. I should like you talking about like the animal.
Joey inherited Rex's ability to add or subtract protons from nuclei to create any substance, but whereas Rex can only alter the physical properties of his own body, Joey can do it to other objects, giving him a kind of King Midas power. Onto the Hall of Justice.
Pete.
I love it. They shot this at Cincinnati's Union Terminal, which is perfect because the first time the Hall of Justice appeared, it was in 1973 when ABC got the rights to DC Comics for a time and partnered with Hanna-Barbera to make the show Super Friends. And the artist on that show, Al Gamer, modeled their headquarters on this Art Deco Union Terminal in
Got a little
Cincinnati,
wife
a
who's-
train
though
station turned
Just
into a
Cruz
museum.
is
They actually
a
used the
genuinely good
exterior of the
written
building
character in the
and the
comics.
interior of the building.
My guy,
Since the
and
Justice
Guy
League
Gardner
presumably
is
doesn't exist
just
yet,
Guy
only
Gardner.
the Justice Gang,
How
this
can you
building
not
is still
love
coming
him?
together. But it's going to be a big part
feel
of the
that.
DCU going forward.
But Guy
There's a
Gardner,
huge
it's just the
mural in
fact that
background of these
he
shots,
just be
and
talking a
James
lot
Gunn
of shit,
teased
though.
that this tells the early
Like
history of the DCU.
I like characters who like got like
huge
who, like,
mural in the background that tells
got a lot of
the story
anger
of
or,
white
like,
humans in the DC.
just go hard basically. Who just like
we released
just
those
punch first and then
We're
talk
gonna
about it
break
later.
down properly whenever
But
James
Guy
Gunn
Gardner,
posts a
he
full
just be
image
talking
of
a
it
lot
because
of
they
shit.
never
He
show
like,
a full shot of it
he
in
just
the
somebody
scene.
usually
For
like, man, I
now,
gotta be
we were
his
able to
ass.
spot a
Just
number of
show him
Golden
up.
Age DC heroes. You can't make them all out, but the fact even that Golden
He
Age
be talking
DC
too
hero
crazy.
designs are included at all is just so fun because it suggests that in the 1940s and
It's shit
50s of
talk
this
without
world, there
anything
was an
backing it
earlier
up.
generation.
Exactly, he can't back it
Where the
up.
Justice
So I understand where you
Society
come
that the
from. It's
present
just funny.
generation wants
It's just
to
funny.
try to
I
live
see what
up
you
to.
mean.
Just so you know, the original Justice Society of America lineup
I see
included
what you're
Dr.
saying.
Fate, Hourman, Spectre, the
He
Sandman,
just be talking
Atom,
crazy.
Flash, Green Lantern, and Hawkman. But here are the DC Golden Age heroes that we could make out. On this side, we see Silent Knight. That's Brian Kent from the 6th century of England. He might be on the far
he's
side
definitely
because
talking
he
about
would be
back
one of
then.
the
He be getting
earliest
beat up
known
by
heroes
everybody.
historically, well before 300 years
Batman
ago.
punched him
I
in one
think that's
comic book.
Black Pirate, John Valor, seated beside those barrels. He's from the 16th century. The
Batman
one who would
punched
be on the
everybody.
white horse, who's not in frame, but you see the horse, that could be golden arrow, we definitely see the original Jay Garrick, the Flash from
Batman
1940 with the red
everybody.
top and the helmet, whom was paid homage to in that very, very weird sequence in 2023's The Flash. I think standing in front of him might be Aquaman Arthur Curry with the orange top and the green
is
pants, but I
Batman.
can't tell. We also see someone with yellow boots
Yeah,
on blue
Batman.
pants.
Guy
I
Garner,
wonder
he
if this could be
just
Dr.
swole
Fate,
for
who
nothing.
was played by
He used to
Pierce
using his
Brosnan
ring.
and was
He
the
gotta
best
use his
part of the
muscles for nothing.
2022 Black Adam movie. But then on the other
Can't take a
side, we
hit.
definitely see
don't
Wildcat
fight.
Ted Grant, a former heavyweight boxer who actually first appeared in the same 1942
I didn't
issue
notice this
as the
in the
original Mr. Terrific. There's a boxing ring behind him, and the one doing the handstand with yellow pants could be the tarantula John Law. But then there's this guy on the far right who could also be Kent Nelson, Dr. Fate, but not in his suit. Again, we will break these down once we get a clearer image of them. Kendra reads a Daily Planet newspaper with the headline, U.S. defies
Would you
Geneva
get that bold
Convention by
clip
holding
like
Superman in
Guy Gardner?
Pocket Universe. This tells us that this black hole
to prove your
technology
love.
was banned at the Geneva Convention of this world. Assuming Dr. Manhattan will be canon at some point, maybe
you
his
got
own
it.
dangerous quantum technology is what caused that ruling. There's also a portrait in the background of this floor where Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Guy are all posed with Maxwell Lord. The hypno glasses come up in the scene, and there might be something to Mr. Terrific actually helping build them, because we also learn that Mr. Terrific put nanobite trackers in all of their bloodstreams, including Superman. If Superman allowed him to do that, it might mean that they've collaborated a lot in the past. Mr. Terrific takes Lois to Fort
Mr.
Kramer
you talking
to
Mr.
try to
Man-
get Superman
Dr.
out.
Man-
There's a hilarious
he won't
bit
be
where
king?
Michael's garage door opens way too slow. Lex plays a horrifying game of Russian roulette with Molly, the
talking about
falafel
Dr.
guy,
Manhattan?
demanding Superman reveal who he's working with on Earth, who raised him as a child, and on the second question, bang, R.I.P.
Dr. Manhattan would
It
be
is
too
so
powerful to put
evil
it in-
what
in
Lex
this,
does here. Mr.
universe.
Terrific encases Lois in a protective shield as he and his T-Spheres wreck the Luthor Corp techs and the Raptors.
They can do it, though.
A very
Why not?
impressive long take that
I don't know if they
recalls
got the
Wonder
rights
by
to it,
Henry
though.
Bram in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, mixed with Yondu using his Yaka arrow to take down the Ravagers in Guardians Volume 2. The come a little bit closer sequence, but the fun song that this is set to is Noah and the Whales 5 years time. What I love most about the sequence is just how chill and efficient with his energy Mr. Terrific is. Like, most of his movements are just shifting his hands and his fingers slightly to fling the spheres around, and then at one point gently lifting his arm to be carried up. He conserves his energy for only the moments when he actually needs it. Rex, meanwhile, is heartbroken over having to see Molly die, and he retracts his kryptonite hand, and I think this is a practical effect for at least part of the shot. Superman needs a yellow sun to heal, so Rex conjures the elements that go into the forging of a star. Hydrogen, deuterium, which is a stable isotope of hydrogen, also known as heavy hydrogen, and helium. And then he spins these together in a kind of centrifuge to initiate nuclear fusion, which works and produces a miniature star. Now, this whole idea of forging stars might connect to a big Easter egg that I spotted in the final scene. Now, recharged, Superman punches out of the cell, and the Leica Trielmar lens really showcases this. The focus goes from Superman's boot to his fist to the broken shards of glass. Superman frees Baby Joey, the Raptors swarm them, and Superman and Baby Joey fall into the anti-proton river. Now, Superman's body is able to withstand these anti-protons, and maybe Baby Joey is able to just have some of them around him because he does have this nuclei affecting ability. Raptors surround Metamorpho. One of the Raptors says, "All right, freak, nice and slow, back in the cage." This, or one of the voices of the other Raptors, is a vocal cameo by Michael Rosenbaum, James Gunn's friend who played Lex Luthor on Smallville. Rex sprays these guys with acid. Crypto spots Mr. Terrific's T-Spheres and goes fetch. Superman fends off the Raptors and flows down the anti-proton river toward a black hole. He and Baby Joey and Crypto and Rex all go into the black hole. The visuals look so stunning, and this whole existence of the black hole connects to a big theory I have for where they're gonna go back to this in the future. Superman uses his super breath and blows them all back out to safety. They escape, and Lois has to take a kryptonite poisoned Superman back to the Kent farm. In Clark's old bedroom, we see a pennant for the Smallville Giants. As Lois watches this in the room, behind her is a poster of the NASA Saturn 1B rocket launch. This image is from Apollo 1A. This was the uncrewed test flight that led to the development of the Saturn V rocket that would take the Americans to the moon. It would just make sense that Clark would have a love for space travel and rockets, as they are what brought him to Earth. Also in his room that we see the next morning, a poster for the mighty Crabjoys. Jimmy sends along the selfies from Eve, and Lois realizes that in the background of Eve's photos is the damning evidence, a map of Jarhanpur showing plans to divide it in half, and Luthor's plans to call one of them Luthoria. We later learn that this is the idealized country where Lex wants to create a tech utopia and make himself king, profiting off of the oil reserves. This is somewhat similar to Lex's plot in the 1978 Superman film, where he wanted to create a new west coast of the United States where he would own the most valuable real estate. I would have loved if somewhere on this map, like Sydney or Otis, could have penciled in a little city for themselves. Also on this map, north of Jarhanpur, you can see the country Markovia, which is another European country in the DC universe, home to Geoforce Force and Terra. Henry Bram now gets this beautiful shot of Crypto playing with the cows, with the dog perfectly caught in the lens flare of the morning light. There's just something so wholesome about this part of the movie that I really loved. Like, the Kent farm in this movie doesn't go for the stereotypical huge house and the barn and the grain silo all clustered together, because modern American farms in the Midwest tend to look more like this, just with the humble house and the barn being on a different part of the property away from the house. Clark laments how his birth parents sent him to Earth to hurt people. Jonathan says, parents aren't for telling their children who they're supposed to be. We're here to give you the tools to help you make fools of yourself all on your own. Your choices, Clark, your actions, that's what makes you who you are. They see the news on the TV. Now, this is a Luther Corp brand TV, and I just find it funny with options like Lord Tech for consumer electronics. The fact that Lex is dying to know where this home is, part of him is already inside the home. TV reports show how the Baravian military is about to invade Jaranpur, and the people of Jaranpur mount a brave resistance, including these kids who raise a flag with Superman's emblem and chant his name. Rex watches this footage from his home with baby Joey, reunited with Sapphire Stag, who's played in this movie by Louisa Krause, who, along with Anthony Kerrigan, did have a role in HBO's Barry. On their wall is a poster for the periodic table of elements, appropriate decor for the Element Man. With the rift spreading to Metropolis, the city gets evacuated. We see everyone's bringing their pets, including one woman with her turtles. We get our one Batman reference in this movie, a road sign on the freeway with one lane leading to Gotham City, another to Queensland Park. Just a reminder that if Metropolis is in Delaware, Gotham City would
I can't wait to see who else they
Jersey,
put in here, like
Queensland Park is
like Batman, Flash. I can't wait to see
in the Daily Planet newsroom. One of the screens shows a cameo by CNN's Jake Tapper, who's credited in this movie as Jack Taper.
I can't wait to see a live action Robin.
Walk Perry through their research. There are some hilarious details in these selfies. One being that Eve got a selfie with Mr. Handsome and tied a floral scarf around his neck. Another, at some point in Antarctica, she got a selfie in her snow bunny outfit with Lex Luthor, and I just have no idea when they would have taken that selfie or how she got Lex to pose for it, but she's that good. And I love how in the scene as they leave, you get a sense of the order of Perry White's favorites among the Planet staff and how Steve Lombard is at the bottom of that triage.
Lois, you got that flying saucer deal up on the roof?
Yep.
Grant, Troop, come on.
Grab the board, Jimmy.
How many does it hold?
5 or 6. 6.
Okay. Lombard,
Will be a while until we get Flash.
Also, I love the joke that Lois
Flash
couldn't remember
is my
there's
favorite
5
DC
or
hero.
6 seats in Mr. Terrific's ship, including the pilot seat. So
I
Perry
wanna
is
see
like,
them
sure, Steve
ASAP.
Lombard, you can come along, just for Steve to realize he doesn't have a seat when they actually get in.
Buckle up, kids.
why don't I have a seat?
Lois dictates the copy for the article to Jimmy to transcribe while she pilots the ship at the same time. The rift hits Metropolis, splitting a building in half and causing high rises to domino into each other. The last one right over a bridge jammed with traffic. They shot this on Cleveland's Detroit Superior.
If they take their time with this and not try to rush it, they can do good. They can be
he rises
as
from the
good
dust in a
as what
triumphant
Marvel
pose.
did.
Mr. Terrific meets up with him.
You brought that dog, man.
Superman says
All you gotta
he
do is
didn't
take
want
their time
Crypto
and not
eating
try
his
to rush
parents' cows. Ultraman and the engineer tackle them onto the Metropolis Meteors baseball park, Lord Tech Field. This stadium is actually Cleveland's Progressive Field, home of the Cleveland Guardians, and this background is filled with Easter eggs because they needed to cover all the Progressive Field and Guardian signs. We see
Based
an
on the
ad for
already announced
Sarayo,
things, we
a
have
nod to the film's
Peacemaker
lead graphic
Season 2,
designer,
Green Man
80
TV
Sarayo.
series,
On the upper deck, the names of the great
Clayface
Meteors
movie,
players
and
are
Supergirl
all people who
movie.
worked on this
Clayface
movie.
in the
There's Cuevas for Paula Cuevas,
Hey,
assistant
I
art
didn't even see
director.
all these
There's
announcements. Let me look
Petrata
at
for
that.
Drew Petrata, the art department
Clayface
prop
is in the movie,
master.
though.
Down by the field, there are signs for Metropolis Waste
Clayface is a
Management.
Batman villain,
Billy
ain't he?
Burger, a sign that reads "Meteors are
Supergirl
for
movie.
everyone" with the word "one" in trans
Supergirl
flag
movie.
colors. We see Comet Airways with a horse logo. Comet
thought
is the name of
it should
Supergirl's
be
white pet
with-
horse,
I mean,
who is actually a
how should it
centaur
be
turned
within
into
the
a horse by
Superman
Cersei. Fitzgibbon, which is a name James Gunn often puts in his movies. He was the name of Meredith Quill's doctor in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and it's a reference to Gunn's longtime friend Larry Fitzgibbon. We see signs for Soder
I wonder why
Cola,
Peacemaker
Weber
taking this
Wireless,
long to
and
come out.
Doe's Holes, Lex
Peacemaker
Luthor's
came
favorite
out,
donut
what,
shop.
2
When
years
the
ago?
engineer flings a razor
Clayface
disc at
is a
Superman,
Batman
it
villain.
slices
He
off some of
also
his
made an
hair. This is an
appearance in the
important
animated
detail
show.
because Superman is
Chris
invulnerable,
Camino.
but he
Oh, yeah,
can
he
lose
did.
his hair.
I ain't
And
finished
that's
Chris
how Lex in the
Camino. I
past
only watched,
gathered
like,
his hair
the
follicles to
first
source his
2
DNA
episodes,
to
I
create a
think.
clone.
I
Superman
gotta go back in there and watch
suplexes
it.
Ultraman. He
Especially since I know
visions the
it's gonna
engineer's
have
face a
something to
bit
do
and
with
then
live
gets
action
sucker
stuff.
punched when
I
he
gotta go
tries to
back in there.
tell the engineer that it's not too late. Ultraman flies up and kicks
I
him in
only
the
see-
balls,
I'm only
followed by
knowing
a nanite
Clayface
blast
from,
Angela, and now she
Teen
sends
Titans.
a wave of nanites to
That's
fill
what really
his
the
lungs.
only
There's just
reason I
something
know
so
Clayface
disturbing
is
about
Teen
Superman
Titans.
trying to wipe away the
Though
nanites.
the movie
I think
would
it's
be
a
like
close-up
the horror
of his
movie.
eye as they snake into his
Allegedly.
eyeball and cover it. I feel like James
many
Gunn was
times we heard
referencing that really
horror
gross
movie,
moment
superhero
in
movies?
Superman 3 when Vera
Karen
gets tangled in the
recommend really
supercomputer's
enjoyed the Peacemaker
wiring
show.
and her
Yeah, I
screams
seen
just get
Peacemaker.
silenced
I
as her
haven't
mouth is
finished,
plated shut and
the
her
Creature
eyes
Commando
close,
show.
and then they reopen
I seen
covered in the
Peacemaker
metallic
season 1.
silver as
I
the
just
gears
wondering
take
why
over
it takes so long
body.
for this
Ugh.
sixth
The
season to come out.
nanites fill his lungs and Lex
It's been like 2
savors this
years, man.
moment. Superman blasts into the stratosphere with the engineer and Ultraman
Yeah, 2
struggling to
years.
keep up. They latch to his body, and it's a trick to force Angela to latch to him so that when they hit space and he turns back to Earth, they'll reach
probably
terminal
trick, I don't know.
velocity, disorienting
Clayface
Angela's
is, in
control
my
over her
opinion, one of the
nanites
coolest
as they
and most
speed back down to
underrated
Earth. In the
Clayface-
bird's eye view of
underrated
Metropolis, you can see
Clayface
the rift
movie.
already spreading halfway
So
through
I
the
am
city. They
super
crash
for real?
down into the subway tunnel.
Oh, you
The
just having your
impact
way with,
knocks Angela out so
DC
that she
now.
cannot consciously control her
You got
nanites.
Guy
Allowing
Gardner
Superman
in
to
here,
cough them up
and you
and,
got
like,
Clayface?
yank them
Okay,
out.
okay.
Ugh,
I
the
know you
digital
happy.
stickiness of these things is just so gross. Now, this is the last we see of the engineer in the movie, but there is a team-up film called The
Clayface
Authority
cool,
and James Gunn's
but
plans that she's
I gotta
expected
see
to
more.
return in.
I gotta see
Ultraman
more. You
removes
probably
the
know
mask
more
to
than I know, of
reveal
course.
the face of
So I
David
gotta see more of
Cornsweet.
to really
He is a
like
clone.
him.
Now, he's not stated to be Bizarro
I said, I only
exactly,
seen
at
him
least
in
not
Teen
yet,
Titans.
in this movie, but his messy hair and his dumb
was kinda
expression
annoying,
seems to
yeah,
be a
we just
vague
kept seeing
nod
him.
to Bizarro, at least. Specifically, the way the light hits Cornsweet's big, wide eye. Superman and Ultraman brawl. The rift opens to the tunnel, and Superman snaps Ultraman's wrist.
And the
They
superhero
tumble out into a
personality
convention
at the end of
center, and this
Superman
cracks me
was
up. The
from the
signs
comic
read
book one.
Vacuum
There was
Con.
some wrong
It's a
which
convention for
already got me
vacuum
excited.
cleaners. There
You
were
must be a
some
real
photos
comic
with
book
signs
person.
around the Cleveland area
Cause
showing this.
to me, when I seen
cleaning
that, I
up
was
the
like,
city,
I
the
don't like
nation's
her
largest trade show,
attitude,
exhibiting
but
the latest
I
in
gotta get
engineering,
used to the
servicing,
fact that
training,
this is
design.
nah,
So
this
what's
ain't supposed to be serious. This
Is
supposed to be
it that
like
Superman is cleaning up the city, or is it a possible clue?
more
that
likable,
he's gonna
basically. They
beat
supposed to be
Ultraman by getting him
goofy,
sucked
more
into a
relatable,
black
basically. So
hole?
I'm like,
The
okay,
Justice
nah,
Gang
I
shows
can
up to the
do it.
Baravian border to help. Guy swats away the Baravian tanks with giant green hands, and some of the hands flip them off. This is a rare instance
I
where
used
we
to
don't
be
really see the
in
green
racing,
energy
got
emit
back into
directly from the
comics,
ring.
okay.
Metamorpho joins
So
in.
who's your
turns
actual
his
favorite
hands into a giant
superhero then?
hammer to crush the tank. This is actually what Guy Gardner said he
Oh,
wanted
is
to
it
do
Guy
earlier in the
Gardner?
Hall of
He said he's a
Justice.
goat.
Hawk Girl grabs President Gurkos and flies him over the city, and then shows that she has no problem with killing, dropping him to his death, which match cuts with Steve Lombard dropping an antacid into a glass of water on the ship. Now, where did he find a full glass of water on the ship? I don't know, but it is a very fun match cut. When they published the article, if you look closely, you can see that Lois Lane shared the byline with Jimmy Olsen. Normally, he would only get a photo credit, but the fact that he put so much research effort and put his own romantic life on the line to get this story looks like it made what might be his first ever actual byline.
Oh,
Lex
my bad.
gives a great monologue admitting his envy.
What about
and
now?
his disgust
Maybe I
for
just need
Superman,
be closer to the
comparing
microphone.
himself to historical thinkers like Einstein. And
Is it better
Galileo.
now?
And he refers to Superman as a dopey Venusian. So after he called him a Martian earlier, and now a Venusian, it's just another example of Lex delivering
Is it better now? Is it better now?
what planet Superman came from. But there is a Martian metahuman in this universe, Martian Manhunter. Lex jabs.
Yeah, my bad. I was just
screams
leaning
1A,
back.
Kind of match with Ultraman's jabs.
Then what I
Superman
say?
smiles and whistles.
Oh yes.
crypto.
So who your actual favorite
He's
superhero then?
outsmarted,
If not,
turning
if Guy Gardner your
tables
GOAT,
on Brain
or he
versus
just your
Brawn,
GOAT Green
versus
Lantern. So
Crypto
who's your
at
actual favorite
the
superhero?
pet store where Crypto has devoured the snacks and toys. And so Superman, remembering Crypto's chaos with the T-Spheres, sends Crypto after Lex's drones, blinding Lex and his team while Superman is able to give Ultraman the business. Superman and Crypto attack the Raptors, punching one's teeth out, and they hit the camera, which is pretty cartoony and fourth wall breaking, but I do like it. Superman spins with his heat vision on the rest of them,
That part
dropping
went
them
hard.
out of the sky.
It's like my third time saying it, but that part did go hard.
The black hole has now opened up in the trench. Ultraman holds Superman down, but Superman dislocates his shoulder and flips Ultraman into this bus, sending all of it flying into the black hole. Now, in our Indian Explained video, I theorized that if James Gunn ever wants to make this clone officially Bizarro, he could totally build on this moment. That black hole is the same one all the cube-shaped anti-protons flowed into. Those could end up being the building blocks for a future cube-shaped Hitray. That's Earth backwards, the home world of Bizarro in an alternate universe, which could now be built on the other side of this black hole. The rift now spreads toward Baker Line, Lois's home neighborhood, but Superman, Crypto, Mr. Terrific confront Lex in the command center, and he makes a case for his true humanity and how he has made mistakes. Lex mocks this earnestness, but he gets attacked by Crypto, who thrashes him around. The media now turns on Lex. Sean Gunn cameos as his tech rival, Maxwell Lord, who says, the one thing that liberals and conservatives can finally agree on is that Lex Luthor sucks. We'll see Maxwell Lord in the upcoming season of Peacemaker. The people of Jaharnpur celebrate. Hawk Girl invites Metamorpho to the Justice Gang, and when he likes the name, Guy is totally fine with him joining. All of Lex's prisoners in the Pocket Universe are freed. Fleurette is reunited with her parents. Lex's bot monkeys are chased by Crypto. The dog jumps on the uneven crack from the point of the rift that later gets focused on in the post-credit scene with Superman and Mr. Terrific. Could this messy seam be used to explain some of the quantum glitches in the DCU, DCEU Matrix in Peacemaker Season 2? Lex is taken into custody and sent to Belle Reve Prison. That's the home of Task Force X and Task Force M in Creature Commandos. Eve gets out and gives Jimmy a big old hug. hug. Lois in this final act wears a purple sweater that I think might be a nod to the purple top of the DCAU Lois Lane. Lois and Superman step aside for a one-on-one interview, and they go into this Lacey arcade that was actually shot in the Cleveland arcade, a beautiful Victorian structure built in 1890
Top 5
with a
heroes:
glass skylight,
Aquaman,
romantic long
Cassandra
take.
Cain,
The crane mount actually follows
aka
them as they initially
Black
rise.
Bat,
It's a
Batgirl,
practical
Moon
shot,
Knight,
and I love
Daredevil,
that because it just
and
stays
last
close
is
with
between
them
Raven
as
and
they kiss, and
Nightwing.
Superman floats both of them upward. It's just so damn good. James Gunn.
This is a different list. I ain't never heard nobody say none of these people as their favorite superhero. You different.
Is rebuilt with a gnarly scar on his face.
Aquaman, Batgirl, Moon Knight, Daredevil, Raven, or
The date
Nightwing.
on this issue is Saturday, May 24th. The newspaper at the beginning of the film with Clark's
That's different.
Bravia story was actually the Monday before that. So this
Who
movie
do I
is
like
taking
more
place
out of
over
all
just
of them?
1
Probably
week in
Moon Knight.
May.
I probably like
Before
Moon
now,
Knight
which
out
used
of
to go by the name
all of them the
Gary,
most.
which could be a nod to the character Alan Tudyk played in Santa
And then
Clarita
after
Diet
that,
alongside Jimmy
let me
Olsen.
put them in my top 5. Let me put them in the
Superman's
order as
cousin,
5.
Supergirl, Kara Zor-El,
I'll probably say
played by
Moon
Millie
Knight.
Alcock, crashes in drunk, reuniting with her dog
Let me see.
Crypto.
I'll probably say
Superman makes
Moon
reference to
Knight,
the fact that the yellow
Daredevil,
sun makes it hard for them to get drunk, so they
Nightwing,
have to find the
Batgirl,
red sun
Aquaman.
because their home star
If Raven, I'll put Raven in there, then I'll put Moon
I'm pretty
Knight,
sure is a cosmic anvil and
Raven,
a star hammer.
Daredevil,
That's from All-Star Superman. where
Nightwing,
Superman
Batgirl,
used this
Aquaman.
to forge infant stars to feed a baby sun eater that he has in the fortress. I go into what to expect from next summer's Supergirl film, who she is, and why this anvil could be important in our ending explained video. Amelia Harcourt, actor, and Gunn's wife Jennifer Holland cameos as the voice of robot number 22, and we hear the Teddy Bears version of Punk Rocker featuring Iggy Pop recalling Superman's chat with Lois about what it means to be punk rock, seeing the beauty in all people. We close this movie with where he got that outlook, not with the Kryptonian parents whose recording used to be what soothed him during these healing sessions, but
I hate that Cassandra
Jonathan
Cain hasn't
Martha
gotten a
Kent
proper
and young
comic
Clark,
adaptation,
specifically
only
this one shot of Pop
no
Kent
Batgirl
holding up
as
young
Barbara
Clark
Gordon
in this Superman pose.
because
And the detail that
DC
it took me a
decided.
few times
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I
to
only know
realize
Barbara
that
Gordon. I
Superman's
heard of
scream
Cassandra
in the
Cain before, but
opening scene
yeah, I
was so
definitely only know
severe
Barbara
that he
Gordon
screamed
more.
in pain. So really deep down, that message from Jor-El and Lara didn't
And they had a
soothe him that
Batgirl
much.
show
But now,
supposed to have
as
came
the
out. They
yellow
canceled it
sunlight
real
fills
quick
his
though.
face, these images of Ma and Pa from Kansas just result in a calm smile. This shot of Superman with Crypto on the moon in the middle of the credits is an homage to this frame from All-Star Superman number 6. And that is everything that I spotted in James Gunn's Superman. I love this movie, and comment down below with what your favorite detail was in it. And a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Rick Denman, who supports us at the executive producer level. And thanks again to Yamava Resort and Casino for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description below to start planning your trip and to find out more about how you can win Action Comics #1. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Alright, so that's that long video about the Easter eggs from the Superman movie. Like I said, I get the Superman movie probably like a 7.5. It was cool. It had some work. It had some stuff there in it that I was like, eh. But overall, I think it was a good movie, and like I said, I look forward to seeing what's next from the DCEU. James Gunn universe.
Yeah. I didn't turn the AC on, but the young nigga still too hot. I told her what the fuck we on, but I still think they missed the plot. Know my ex is mad, yeah, cause they missed they shot. We ain't got a bag, yeah, now might let's go shop. Now